Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2010 action comedy spy thriller titled The Spy Next Door. Now, The Spy Next Door runs for 1 hour and 34 minutes long. It is directed by Brian Levant. It is produced by Robert Simmons. The script was written by Jonathan Bernstein, James Greer, and Gregory Poirier. The story was done by Jonathan Bernstein and James Greer. It was composed by David Newman, the cinematography by Dean Cundy, and it was edited by Lawrence Jordan. And the stars of the movie are Jackie Chan, Amber Valletta, Magnus Scheving, Madeline Carroll, Will Shadley, Alina Foley, Billy Ray Cyrus, George Lopez, Lucas Till, Katherine Boecher, Tim Connolly, Troy Brenna, Jeff Chase, Mark Kubr, David Mattey, Scott Workman, Esodie Geiger, Arron Shiver, and Richard Christie. While I always have a special spot for Jackie Chan in the movie he stars in due to his likable demeanor, his charismatic presence, and most of all his creative and well choreographed stunt work he does in every film that has made him a cultural icon in the film industry, from his early years in the Hong Kong action thriller movies that he has done with the kung fu stuff, passing him kind of almost like a bit of a Bruce Lee passes the torch to him. He's practically been doing this since the 60s, since he was, just a young tot, teenager, so to speak. So this guy's been, he's been doing this for many, many years. He's been in many great action movies, not just in the Hong Kong area, like the Police Story series and Drunken Masters. He's also made a name for himself in the American film industry as well, with the Rush Hour movies, Operation Condor, Shanghai Noon, Shanghai Nights. He's also done some movies that are not particularly of my style, like The Medallion and The Tuxedo. Nah, those movies are crap. But still, hey, Jackie Chan's likability still makes it all the more watchable. But as of late, his more adult-themed movies have shifted about, as he seems to have a more keen interest in lighter fare movies geared towards the younger age demographics. Now the question we want to know is his shift to a more family-friendly movies going to, solidify himself as a versatile action star? Or is it just gonna, lower himself by being in these more saccharine, sweet, kiddie stuff that is kind of, no pun intended, wiring him down? And what I mean by wiring him down, you'll eventually know what I mean. Mr. Chan, in 2010's The Spy Next Door, Mr. Chan has to face his toughest challenge yet. Not facing international spies. No. Sure, there's spies in this movie, otherwise there's villains in this movie, otherwise it would not be an action comedy if it didn't have spies. Duh! And no, and yes, there is, but to be honest with you, that's not his toughest challenge. In fact, these spies are about as dumb as bricks, but I will get more into that. No, his biggest challenge in this movie is watching over 3 obnoxious children while their single mother is away to attend her ill father. Yes. Ha! Parent or parents gone? 3 children left alone in the hospice of a complete stranger? Where does that sound familiar? Oh yeah, The Pacifier. This movie is practically a rip-off of The Pacifier. Only instead of Vin Diesel, we have Jackie Chan. Children. Alone. With somebody watching over them while their parents are in Oso. Where does that ring a bell to? Oh yeah, Uncle Buck. But the only difference is that the children, at least in that movie, seem to have some level of more likability compared to these obnoxious jerk-ass children in this one. And boy, are they the epitome of obnoxiousness. In fact, the whole movie is just literally based off of one cliche after another. A character is going to be playing a certain role, and they're just going to stick to it. There's no arc. There's no, like revelation. There's nobody's going to, change and become better. No. They're given a role, they're given a task, and they're going to stick to it. And it's going to be just one hell of a cliche fest after another. Even Jackie Chan himself is a walking, talking cliche. So Jackie Chan has stepped away from his violent younger days of his police story and drunken master days to play it more safe and watered down, where the violent scenes are played to more comical effect. Oh, where does that come from? Oh yeah, Home Alone! In fact, the villains are pretty much almost Home Alone type characters, which I will get to more in a bit. Yes, they're played to a more comical effect as opposed to the more grittier stuff we are familiar with from Jackie Chan. So the story goes like this. Jackie Chan plays a CIA agent who's got one of the most laughable first name, last name combinations in cinematic history. Yes, his name is Bob Ho. Ho ho! Bob Ho, which seems like familiar territory for Jackie Chan's characters appearing as either a cop or a secret agent, and seems to have a knack for solving crimes that his American counterparts find difficult while remaining incognito about his profession, especially with his neighbor slash girlfriend Jillian, played by Amber Valletta, and her 3 doubled children, Farron, played by Marilyn Carroll, Ian, played by Will Shadley, and Nora, played by Alina Foley. And yes, when I mean cliche, boy do I mean cliche. Jackie Chan playing a CIA agent, big surprise. Jillian, the single mother who has to raise three obnoxious children. Oh yeah, she's a single mother. Daddy's nowhere around. Kill the patriarchy! And she's got her 3 children who also are walking, talking cliches. One is the stuck-up teenager. One is the 8-year-old kid who talks like a 20-year-old, who reads quantum physics. And then you have the cute, adorable little 4-year-old who pronounces cyborg like cyborg, and she still can't pronounce spaghetti like it's spaghetti. Ugh. And then, of course, you also have, his colleagues. We have George Lopez, who's only there for the money. We got Billy Ray Cyrus, who wants to prove that he's more than just a one-hit wonder with an achy breaky heart. And he just plays Southern. After all, he is a Southern little hick with a little old Southern accent. Ain't that right there, partner? And then, of course, you have non-Russian actors playing cheesy Russian accents. they're at the same equivalent level as when Paul Frees and June Foray were doing Boris and Natasha from the Rocky and Bullwinkle movies. Ain't that right there, darling?
Oh, yes, of course, Natasha. I will take down Moose and bring him to his damnation.
Oh, are you sure about that too, Boris, darling? That kind of accent. Sorry to all the people of the Slavic community. I didn't mean to offend you, but if you want more offensiveness, check the Spy Next Door out. Oh yeah, just like every CIA agent or superhero vigilante, he of course conceals or goes incognito of his profession by posing as a generic pen salesman, much to the chagrin of their 3 children who thinks he's a loser and a geek. And of course they'll do everything they can in their powers to make his life a living hell. Even doing some rather underhanded, cruel stuff. Yeah. And all the while, he still somehow manages to keep a smile on his face. I don't know why. But then again, Jackie Chan's a nice guy, so I don't think he seems to mind too much. In fact, he sometimes often gets the better of them in the end after all. So he poses as a generic pen salesman, and just like every superhero who tries to conceal their identity, Bob follows in that trajectory as well. However, it's much more personal than that. If word comes around about his true identity, his life and the people around him will be in great danger. So he and Jillian, they've been dating now for 3 months, but feels confident that they will make it to their next pivotal step in their relationship. Marriage. My advice, wait out a year. 3 months is too early. When news that her father injured herself, she goes away to town, and that leads Bob to get better acquainted with her 3 obnoxious children. They snoop around in his house looking for any kind of deep, dark secrets that he is hiding. The middle child, Ian, stumbles upon a advanced technical software that he claims that there is like some kind of bootlegged concert downloaded on his computer. He thinks that this bootlegged concert is his one-way ticket to popularity. Obviously, being that he's one of the smartest kids in the school, he tries to show off this new software to a group of bullies, but in the end it turns out to be just static. And of course, that leads to Wedgie City. Yes, that's right, they hoist him up by his underwear and throw him in the garbage. Yeah, kids are such assholes, aren't they? Yeah. Oh, and by the way, did you know that Farron never calls Jillian Mom? She always refers to her by her first name. You often wonder to yourself, why? Isn't that disrespectful? I say it is. But then we also reveal that Jillian is also not her biological mother. You see, when she was in one of the rare tender moments that she has with Bob, she and Bob sit on top of the roof, and she laments the fact that her mother died when she was small, her father married Jillian, and that Ian and Nora are only her half-siblings. And she feels that with Daddy nowhere around, Daddy's no-show, she feels like she's a freak. And then Bob is like, That is not true. I was raised in an orphanage, and I lived my whole life with no parents. I was an unwanted person. The CIA is what picked me up. It's like a home to me. But of course, like in every movie, this is all cliche. Bob wants out of the CIA. But unfortunately, the CIA wants him back in because he's the only one who could, get down to the bottom of a hostage, of a crisis situation. You see, a Russian criminal by the name of Anton Poldark, played by Magnus Scheving. Oh, by the way, he's not even Russian. He's Icelandic. Well, apparently he broke out of prison. And apparently he has been working on some kind of secret formula that looks like a yellow tube of Mountain Dew. Anyhow, this little solution can wipe away crude oil. Why weren't you around in 1989 when the Exxon Valdez gushed oil all over the areas in Alaska? That could be useful. Anyhow, this little solution can wipe away crude oil. And he thinks that with this solution, it'll make them rich. So he breaks out of prison and threatens the world of its oil reserve. And also, working in the system at the CIA, there seems to be a mole. Yes, an employee of theirs seems to be working for these Russian terrorists. Oh, don't worry, it might sound like a dangerous mission with a complicated premise. But let me tell you something, this ain't no fucking James Bond or Jason Bourne. No, this is kiddie stuff. So it's not as complicated as you seem. And these Russian spies and these Russian thugs that are working for Anton, they're just a bunch of bumbling, wet bandit type villains. Who, of course, how cliche, they get outsmarted by not only Jackie Chan, not only by Jillian or the kid. They also get outsmarted by the kids too. Oh, young children with no experience outsmarting adults. Yeah. Been there, done that. Thank you. Next. The villain might seem like a pompous thug who spends most of his time trying to look appealing. That is the sound of someone blowing their nose. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where? I'm not here. If there was anything that had a certain level of intrigue, the opening scene featured a collage of clips from the archives of Jackie Chan's movies from the past, doing what he does best, performing innovative stunts that's part martial arts and part vaudeville. Because apparently Jackie Chan was also inspired by a lot of these vaudeville performers who had also did, clever, resourceful escape routines. Like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. Guys who did not depend on their strength but their wit. And you have often seen that a lot in Jackie Chan's work in the past. And then we are treated to a drawing of Jackie Chan's real-life situations and talking about the values of love and family, which might add some emotional touches to an otherwise blank-screened movie that struggles badly in its incomplete subplots while he's supervising 3 children who don't think kindly of him. The trifectas are the usual stereotypes we see in the film, from the youngest daughter who's fixated on the color pink, to the intellectual type who's an easy bait for bullies, and a cliched teenage daughter who thinks she's too independent to be looked after. Like I said, that's all Uncle Buck stuff. And that's bad enough as it is, but one of the biggest flaws that is sadly no fault of his own. Hey, guess what? It's nature of the beast. It happens to everyone. But yes, I hate to say this, but as much as I love Jackie Chan, age doesn't seem to be quite responsive to that love and affection. Yep, age seems to be creeping up on Jackie Chan, and it shows. Maybe that's why he's downsizing himself to more lighter kiddie fare. Though this may be due to him starring in a child-friendly environment where sadly he has to water down his performances, being the fact that it's not as gritty as the Rush Hours and the Police Stories and the Drunken Master movies, which are pretty heavy-handed. He has to kind of water himself down to more simpler, innovative stuff. But we could see that the stunts he performs here pales in comparison to the stuff he did in the 80s and 90s. I mean, let's see here. By today's standards, Jackie Chan is roughly about 67, 68 years old now. Back in 2010, he was about 56, 57 years old. Yeah, I know. No fault of his own, but apparently age does take your toll, and he kind of has to tone down. It happens to everyone, unfortunately. I don't like to bring that up, but at some point or another, it comes a time when you gotta either lower yourself down or simply just don't do it anymore. But obviously, Jackie Chan lives on this. He depends his career on it. His career isn't dependent on Oscars or Golden Globes or anything like that. He is an action star, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger or a Jean-Claude Van Damme or a Sylvester Stallone. Even though Sylvester Stallone actually has a few Oscars in his belt. But still, he's in that kind of league. But of course, with age, you have to take things down a notch. At one time, I was excited about what unpredictable stunts Chan was going to perform. But in The Spy Next Door, I just don't get that here. First of all, he depends way too much on stunt doubles doing the more heavy-handed stuff in the scenes. And he's just way too dependent on the wiring. At one time, he could probably leap off of buildings without using any wiring. Or he could go down a ladder truck without any kind of wiring or things like that. Well, here in this movie, there's a lot of wire work. Not just from him, but also some of the other supporting characters as well. And his looks way too amateur. That pales in comparison to his ongoing legacy. And while I'm not saying that he should just sit on a rocking chair and count his blessings as to how much more hours and minutes he has left on this earth, no, I'm not saying he should do that. There's still a lot of fight left in him. Even as we speak, he could still probably go at it. Though I wouldn't fully recommend him. I mean, if he was to do a Rush Hour 5 movie, I don't know. I can't tell. I can't say. It might be a watered down version since, he's getting older, Chris Tucker's getting older. Maybe he might still have some fight left in him, I don't know. He could still defeat opponents at close quarters. And he still actually managed to find artistic ways to perform stunt tricks using household items. But it's just not the same as the material we're used to seeing Jackie Chan perform in. I mean, basically, I would rather see him use fists and kicks and other death-defying wall climbing, semi-levitating stunt work performed at his own merits. I do not want to see him just, beating up a bunch of bad guys using pots and pans and ladles and cooking spoons. I would rather like to see him use more heavy-handed stunt work. Not play it safe. Of course, knowing the situation that he's in, I guess it just kind of has to be that way. But it's just not the same. Playing it safe shows that he's actually slowing down. And he feels the need to be more careful as opposed to being more daring. Aside from that, too, the acting wasn't really that great either. I mean, he and Jillian really had very little chemistry. The kids are all one-dimensional. The villains were all one-dimensional. Even the people who worked for the CIA was one-dimensional. It was just very taxing to watch. And sure, it probably might succeed as a family-friendly popcorn movie, keeping things safe. There's no sexual innuendos. Thank goodness for that. For a kid's spy movie, that would not be right to be put that in there. There's no vulgarity, which is great, because who wants to hear young kids dropping F-bombs? And there's no blood. But then again, this is kind of like a PG movie, so they gotta sort of keep that in context. But it will surely have plenty of family moments parents and children could enjoy. But if you're an adult who doesn't have children or would rather prefer to watch adult stuff, stick to the James Bond stuff or any other movies that has some levels of espionage and more harder, grittier subplots. But as always, for a treat at the end, we always get to see several outtakes of bloopers, botches, and Jackie Chan's continual struggle with the English language. And we're not laughing at him because of his struggles with the English language. Hell, Arnold Schwarzenegger struggles with the English language. We actually laugh with him. Because let's face it, Jackie Chan has that sense of humor. And no, it's not racism, it's not offensive if we laugh at his struggles with the English language, so keep your hair loose and not scrunch it in a bun or anything like that. Come on, life doesn't have to be too serious. With all you people out there who are so sensitive about everything. Everything is offensive. All I gotta say to some of these people is get a fucking life. Life doesn't have to be so serious all the time. We can sit back and enjoy life. Jackie Chan sometimes even enjoys laughing at his own expenses. It's not offensive. So rest assured about that. But unfortunately, though, I don't know if I could recommend this movie too much. Because it is very deeply flawed, very deeply cliched. And I guess if you have kids, you could probably find some level of enjoyable moments. But I still think this is not the Jackie Chan movies that I gravitate towards. So if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I love you, Jackie Chan, but this movie wasn't really that good. So I have to give it a 5 out of 10. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the three simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Carrot Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.